All right, we are live. Want to welcome everybody back to my On the Shoulders of Giants channel. I am Joseph Ward, the founder, author, and creator of On the Shoulders of Giants. Make sure you visit my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com. I have just released my online course, which is available on my website. Go check it out. Freedom Fighters of the African Diaspora is Module 1. Got 18 freedom fighters I'm teaching you about. Because people are always saying our ancestors didn't fight back. But guess what? I got 18 people plus more who fought back. So go check out the online course, www.ontheshoulders1.com. But enough about me. Well, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You know, they got those funny algorithm things. And if you like, comment, and subscribe, more people can see this stuff. Because we about to drop some gems on y'all today. So make sure you pull out your pen and your pad, because it's about to go down. Last time we were on, it was amazing. And I got the idea of, well, we went into it a bit, but we really didn't cover it. So we're going to talk about Black theater. So I invited the gentleman back. So we have Mr. Lowell Williams, Mr. Summerhill 7, and Baba Olusegun Williams will be joining us. So we were starting with a conversation about 3/5. I'm curious. I'm going to instigate a little bit. What's the 3/5 thing? Let's start there.
All right, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give you a quick answer to that, and then I'm gonna tie it right into the conversation about Black theater history.
Okay.
My thesis tonight is the Black theater has no known beginning nor ending. It is, was, and shall forever be.
Mm-hmm.
So the other three, so 3/5 of a man acknowledges that you're 2/5 a God. Now, here we go. Reading from the text of the day, Squircular.
Mm-hmm.
The moment of Black theater history we're in right now is called poemedy. That's the revolution. That is the revolution that is happening right now. For the past 15 years, I've been running a small .com called poemedy.com. Past 5 years, the Poemedy Institute, where we have been making manifest the God energy through the word. Hear this. The word was the beginning, and that was all. And the word was the all, and the word was with the all, and the first word was be. And the all uttered this action word and became the first actor. You see? And so regardless of whatever meta story you have, at the foundation of it all, there is something that is your bedrock that you believe, you see? Whether it's the Quran or the Bible or whatever, there's some meta story inside all of this that you have accepted as reality.
Right.
Poemedy is about making the connections between the meta stories that we all share. So Black is the first part of this, Black theater history. The first meta story that we all share is the meta story of race. That's a meta story. There's no found, before let me go back to the book. In case anybody's wondering what this, do you know what this book? You're a historian.
Let me say it again.
Read this book?
Let me see the book again.
You read this book? This is a history book.
No, I haven't read that one yet.
This is the history book. This came out in 2010. So this is already 10 years old. Okay. Now, listen to this part. Even before we are male or female or any nationality or race, we are actors acting on an egg. We're acting to create our initial creation ourselves. We are all actors first. We are creators. And as Shakespeare has aptly observed, many of us share common roles such as infant, student, parent, career seeker, teacher, writer, elderly, etc. And thus we share the scripts written for these characters. That's Black theater. The history is his story. Lowell Williams got his story. Baba Olusegun's got his story. Summerhill Seven's got his story. I hope you have on here some sisters so we can hear the Black theater herstories. That's one of the things that Poemity.com is currently focused on right now. Lowell Williams is directing the play for the virtual theater group that we started by a woman. Her story. It's her story, and it's her story about America. She chooses the moment of, it won a Pulitzer Prize. It's called Top Dog Underdog. Do you know what year, Lowell, it won the prize?
I can't remember right off.
Oh. Okay.
While you're there talking, I will find out.
I think it was 2002. And Top Dog Underdog, very important pivotal piece in history. Here in Black theater history, Top Dog Underdog. Lowell will be directing that for our virtual rep. That's key in the development of Poemity. That's key in everything. Right now, Mr. Ward, I'd have to say, hopefully Lowell will disagree with me so we can argue some more. I'd have to say that our common parentage for everything in Black theater right now happening today, including Poemity, is Lorraine Hansberry. All roads, including and especially Hamilton, and I'd dare say white theater, half of white theater, because if you see her second play, I think she really is the forerunner for people like Stoppard. When I say second play, I mean the sign in Sidney Brewstein's window. Have you heard of that one, Joseph?
I haven't, as far as within that realm. No, because it's all still new to me, so I'm still learning a lot about it. So that's one reason why I'm here today, to learn a lot more, because was never taught. Like when it came to, well, we learned nothing about theater growing up. They rarely took us to plays that Charles Wonderwood Theater here. But unfortunately, I went to schools that were predominantly Black, and we didn't learn a lot about Black history outside of the norm. So a lot of that stuff I'm still learning now.
Well, you're making up for it, because this is very important. And as you see, Black theater is the history of the whole planet Earth, Joseph. You see, it's really that serious, because until you understand what it means to create a narrative, you don't understand how much you're living inside a narrative that was created for you, rather than the narrative that you create for yourself. And so Lorraine Hansberry, she wrote Raisin in the Sun. We know this play. The world knows this play, translated in a lot of different languages. And so I'm gonna let Lowell pick up here, because I think at some point we want to double back and do our introductions. But I just wanted to just say, to pick up on that 3/5 thing, is that inside this meta story of race, the assumption frequently is by us African Americans, my family, is that the action is taken because we are seen as inferior. We're treated bad because we're seen as inferior. I've never thought that. I've always thought that it's been quite the opposite. You take action, you attempt to destroy something because you're afraid of it.
Right.
Because you recognize the superiority of it. And so 3/5 was not a condemnation. We're saying that they're not humans. There's something greater than human, and we can't account for that. But without them, our whole society falls apart. Our whole way of life disappears.
Right. It's like yeah. Now I was gonna say it's like taking these people that you know have these powers, that are powerful people, and you get them to believe that they are not powerful. You get them to believe that they are 3/5, and if you can get them to believe in the story, because I always tell people, the nigga was created for a reason. Like they just didn't subsequently just create niggas all out here just because. They created a self-defeating human being so you wouldn't be challenging their power.
There it is. There it is. Simple as that, bro. Simple as that.
Right.
But yet still, look.
To answer your question, earlier question, 2002 was when Susan won the Pulitzer.
Got it. So,
Did you hear me?
Yes.
But let me say, we all seem to be breaking.
We're breaking up.
Say that again. Yeah,
everybody's breaking up.
Yeah, it comes and goes. It's in the software. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Roll with the punches, bro. If you could hear yourself,
we had an issue earlier before you came on, and we fixed it. No, we had this breakup issue before you came on, and Mr. Ward did something and corrected it. That's why I'm mentioning it again.
All right. All right. Well, now we're getting,
because Baba was on too and had a problem.
Yeah.
Take my jacket off here.
Well, let's go ahead.
Yeah. So you so you said 2002 was when the Pulitzer Prize was won. Okay.
For Top Dog.
Okay.
Right.
That's a key play. That's so that play is it's a history about Lincoln and Booth, the 16th president of the United States. It's a history on that subject. It told in a very poetic and contemporary form. I mean, it really, without Top Dog Underdog, I don't think we get to Hamilton, right? Because she really shows that the world has an appetite for these historical retellings. That's what Top Dog Underdog is, as far as my story of Black theater, is a retelling of the Lincoln Booth story, but in a contemporary way.
Well, may I jump in and
go ahead?
Yes, you must jump. You got to fight your way.
Well, I think there's respect to it also. It's the reason that there's this interest in historical themed plays, as you mentioned. A lot of this is, for instance, if you Top Dog Underdog from that perspective of the Lincoln Booth issue, and you look at also at Hamilton, they are not only telling history, but they are retelling it because history is not accurate. And so there's various people are going to see history just as human beings see everything through their particular lens.
Right.
And so when writer goes back and looks at a historical event like Susie did, or Susan Laurie Parks did, and then she writes this play with two black brothers, one named Lincoln and one named Booth, it throws a whole different way now the story that I was learned in school about Lincoln being shot by Booth, and what that all of that was about. So for me, it's more than about why did Booth shoot Lincoln. And when you go into history and do a little studying going into it, it was more than just that Lincoln freed the slaves or was going to free the slaves.
Right.
That's a view of the story. And so Susan is taking it to another, just as Lin-Manuel took the story of the beginning of America to a different level. So I think that's part of why theater now is not only historical, but in many aspects, especially Black theater, is actually, for me, back to what it originally was doing when I got involved in theater. And that was back in the 70s at the Freedom Theater in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And at that time, I was going to look it up, but I know there were at least 100, maybe Black theater companies across America at that time. Now that we're down to, we can probably count them on one hand. Of course, everybody were ensemble company. Of course, theater in Philadelphia, where I was mentored and taught and learned. There was Caramoo House in Cleveland. Summer, can you name a few others? Is he still on?
He's still on. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, can you name a few other Black theater companies?
Did you say M Ensemble?
Of course, the M Ensemble.
Did you say Penumbra?
I just said the M Ensemble here. No, that's one. Yeah, there was Penumbra, and there were several out on the West Coast.
St. Louis Black Rep. The St. Louis.
I say that
Black
again.
Rep. The St. Louis Black Repertory Theater. The West Coast Black Theater Troupe.
Correct. But I was just saying that back at that time, unlike today, there were many more Black theaters. And I think that was because the subject matter had to do with, and that is social justice issues. What Susan Laurie Parks did, Top Dog Underdog, is make these people not caricatures but human beings, because a lot of plays that dealt with slavery that I've seen turn slaves into caricatures that are not always the reality. We're usually portrayed as we were talking about, 3/5 less, acting less than a man, less than a full man. But the reality is, family, my grandfather, great grandfather, owned land in Alabama, and he had my grandfather, he had 11 children. I think most of them were boys. And it was a little town called Hope Hull, Alabama. And all the white people wanted to come and rent his sons to work for them. And he said, sons don't work for me. And he got a reputation of being that nigger. My point is, he didn't succumb to the white man. And I've heard many other stories where Black people were not subservient, they were not shuffling, and they were walking with their heads up. And confronted stuff, didn't always kowtow. So those are stories that are not often told when we're telling the stories with slave narratives.
Well, they starting to be
We have
told.
somebody else joining us there, I think.
Yeah, well, there's a comment.
Oh, yes.
Baba is on. So,
Welcome, Baba.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome.
Good. I finally had to resort to my phone, so I'm on solid right now.
Welcome.
Great. Good to see you.
Yeah. My computer kept dropping the link.
All right, so no, I'm just gonna say, now that we got everybody on, let's start here. Let's start with some introductions, so everybody will know who's who and background that you come from. So, Bob, let's start with you, and then we'll go around.
You doing that because I'm the oldest or something like that?
Oh, yes, you can. Yes, well, not because you're the oldest.
He's starting with you because you're the youngest.
Go ahead and get your shine, but yes, we can start with libation. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, pour that libation. We invite all the ancestors and to join us in this conversation, to give us inspiration and help us recall some of this history, because our minds are a little, at least my mind is a little foggy. So, yeah, go ahead and pour that libation. And that's for the brothers who are not able to be with us today.
Walter Dallas. Let's call Walter in the building.
Yes, Walter Towers.
Walter. Sheo. By way of introduction, I'm Olusegun Williams. I guess theater came after me 3 times in my life, and on that third strike, I decided to go for it because, you know, I was kind of a fan of baseball. Didn't want to strike out. But I've been involved in theater. Like I ran away from it in high school and college. But after I got out of the military in 1971, I met a guy named Theodore Cooper, who eventually became the chairman of the theater department at Howard University. But I met him working in one of the poverty programs during the Johnson administration, what they call the model cities. And he had some kind of office job or something, and I was doing some job recruiting for high school dropouts. And when I met him, he started talking to me about this theater company that he wanted to form in Miami. And I said, you know what, this has been coming after me, you know, most of my life. I better go for it now. So in 1971, he and I and some other people got together and we formed an organization called the Urban Community and Professional Theater, which evolved into what is now known as the M Ensemble Company Incorporated, which will be celebrating 50 years of continuous productions in July of 2021. So I've been around a while, been in a whole bunch of plays, got a whole lot of history to talk about, going all the way back to griots and, you know, where storytelling, you know, like comes from. And some of the older, there's an organization called the Southern Black Cultural Alliance that existed in the 70s. And I'll talk a little bit about that too. But I'll pass it on to the next panelist.
All right. Mr. Lowell, please tell everybody about yourself and your background.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lowell Williams. I've been in Miami since 2000 and originally born in Louisville, Kentucky. Went to Kent State University. I was just talking with Mr. Ward before he came on live about Kent State. I was there when 4 students were killed by the National Guard protesting the Vietnam War. And I went into that because theater going on, if you will, a live theater that resulted in death in the army, and there's a whole kind of play there, if you will. But I eventually ended up in Philadelphia, That's where I got my real start in theater. I'm going to go back just a little bit to tell kind of a funny story that I tell students when I was teaching theater. I had actually got my start, or got the bug for theater when I was in nursery. We were going to reenact Goldilocks and the Three Bears for Parents' Night. And of course, a lot of the kids, like kids today in schools, when you try to get them to do things, everybody was shy. I was shy too, but for some reason, the teacher was begging somebody to play Goldilocks. Well, you can figure out now by the story who ended up being Goldilocks. So my students, I did my first theater role in drag. And all the things that you can, my father, my Black father, because my father was in my family, in my life, not an absent father, he went ballistic. The women in my family, my mother and my grandmother said, grandmother, that's when women made dresses. They went gowns at the store and made. So my grandmother made my dress, and she said when my father was raising hell, you know, the women, I found out who was the strongest. My Samuel, and sit down, he's going to do this play. So my father went and got quiet. Anyway, to make a long story short, I did the part. And of course, being 6, no testosterone yet. So, who's that sleeping in my bed? Oh, Mr. Bear. So after the show was over, I came out and I took my bow, and they told me, you know, take off your wig. I had a wig. And when I did that, like you see in many movies where a crowd is witnessing something, there were applause. And then when I took off my wig, it was silence. And I said, oh, they don't like me. I was horrible. And then all of a sudden there was this roar of applause, building applause. And I got, they didn't know I was a little, I took off my wig. And it was at that moment I said, ooh, all this adulation for me. I can get up on a stage and get this kind of love. So yeah, theater is my thing. Now, I didn't pursue it that much until I got into college, but that's how I got started. And then, of course, it's where Dallas eventually became artistic director, but I started there under a man, my mentor, who was a dynamite theater maker, and was the one that prompted me to go to Temple University, where I got my MFA, the first African-American degree of Temple's MFA program. So that's my history. Some of my classmates of Freedom Theater, pardon me, was Sam, you may know Sam Art Williams, who wrote Homecoming. He was one of my classmates, or was studying with me at Freedom Theater. I just found out recently. Right, Sam Art Williams. Sam with 2 M's. I just found out.
Yes.
Pardon me?
That's a name you want to know, Joseph.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a name. That
yeah.
Is a huge
then
name.
I just found out a interesting another piece of information. Leslie Odoms Jr., who is, of course, now famous for having created the role of Aaron Burr in Hamilton, he trained and started at Freedom Theater. So Freedom Theater is producing and turning out students and turning out Black actors and turning out quality Black actors. With that, I'm going to shut up so Summer can get in here and say a few words.
All right, thank you. Right, it's on you, Mr. Summerhill.
Is it my turn yet?
Did we look?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, great. So, my name is Summerhill7, and what? Can you see? Yeah. Okay. So, my story is pretty basic. I was born in Albany, New York, the son of a cotton picker from Florence, Alabama. I was the 10th child of her 10 children, and she was fleeing my father after having stabbed him, in the course of defending herself. And so her and I were in Albany, New York. The remainder of her children were in Cincinnati, Ohio. And so I grew up both as an only child and the youngest of 10 children. And within the first 6 months of my arrival, I had died from a childhood hernia, an infant hernia, very common in those days, and had been brought back. When I was 5 years old, they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And Superfly had just come out. I had on my platform shoes and my Superfly suit, and I leaned way back, Joseph, and I said, "I'm gonna be a pimp."
Yeah.
With no hint of irony.
Right.
Most of the things I say now that people find funny, I am genuinely serious. And so you can imagine a genuinely serious 5-year-old with no sense of comedy or irony making a declaration of his profession, only to be greeted by a mother who turns bright orange, the color of this shirt, and then snatches my arm. Hopefully, good thing it was attached very strongly. Snatches me out the door, leans back and looks at the lady and says, "He's going to be a lawyer." Cut to 22 years later, and I'm waking up from this moment in a theater in Los Angeles, watching Spike Lee's Malcolm X movie, after having just received the news that I was admitted to the California bar, and get to the scene where they say to Malcolm, "Malcolm, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And everyone on this call knows Malcolm wanted to be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone also knows the teacher said, "You can't be a lawyer. You're a nigger, Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
Niggas can't be lawyers." Which was never true, right? There were plenty of lawyers at that time when he said that. And so, but for Malcolm, it was a pivotal moment, particularly the way they did it in the movie, because Malcolm is looking back on his whole life thinking, "Man, if I could only have been a lawyer." And in that moment, it occurred to me that no one had ever told me I could not be a lawyer. Quite the opposite. Everyone had told me I must be a lawyer. Every black person, every white person I ever encountered. And I thought, okay, great. Well, now I'm a lawyer. Now what? What do I want? And only thing I ever really wanted to be myself was a whole bunch of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I knew how to do that in that moment was to be an actor, that I could be everything. I could be everything. I always felt like I was everything, and I could do anything. And so I wanted to do the thing where you had to do anything and everything. And that's when I had already started acting in law school, but that's when I officially decided. And so for the past, now you look up, it's been 40 years. I've been a professional actor for 40 years. And for the last 15, I've run a business called Poemedy.com, and I teach people the things that I've learned in the process of being a theater professional, theater practitioner. That's pretty much what I do. I mean, I of course, I teach some of the things that I learned as law school and undergrad because they're all related. But fundamentally, what Poemedy.com is about making those connections between it's the string theory between all the meta stories, race, gender, culture, history, all that, connecting all the meta stories into a single unified story that works for the individual.
Right. So I appreciate the introduction. So I have a question, and I'm gonna throw out and can jump on it. Whoever can jump on it first. Well, it's a two-part question. Because like I said for myself, growing up in Tallahassee, Florida, going to predominantly black schools my whole life. We went to plays, but they just really took us to plays for just field trips. We was not really learning about the theater. We wasn't really learning the stories. They they talked about Lorraine Hansberry, but it was surface level. Really didn't get deep. Um, and when it came to theater and plays, it was Shakespeare and all the other white writers. And I'm the young black kid in class, like, dang, like no black people did any writing. And come as an adult now to learning all this new stuff. So why is it important that people know the history of black theater, and what are some of the important things about black theater that people should know?
Okay, I'm just gonna jump in real quick. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm like you, Joseph. I did not like Shakespeare.
Right.
When I was in high school, so I didn't learn any of that. They tried to give me Oklahoma, all of that, anything white. I was like, nah. I mean, and it was like that's pretty much all of school, and but guess my MFA was in Shakespeare, Shaw, Chekhov. Right? Now, what changed? What changed between high school and 40 years? Well, I think it is that I learned why, and this is to answer your question, why is it important? I learned why it was important for me. What's that noise in the background? Is that you shuffling, Baba?
Tell me you doing what?
I guess you
There's
hear
a
the
lot
papers.
of shuffling going on.
You hear this right here?
I think so.
I got some
Yes.
papers in my hand. That's what you're hearing?
It's competing.
That's it.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
loud.
Really?
Loud.
Yeah. You know I'm hard of hearing. I can't hear it. Well, go ahead. I'll stop. Go ahead.
We here.
Right.
What was I saying, Joseph?
Shoot, you made me forget.
You weren't listening either, huh?
No, I was listening. I had it in my mind. Then we started talking about the papers. Shoot. I'm too young for this.
Yeah, I know that's right.
We're back to it. Oh,
You were talking about something that happened after you got your MFA in Shakespeare.
Yeah, why it's important.
Yeah, why is it important? Here's what I learned. So high school, I hated Shakespeare, and then I take my life and I go back. I interrupt my entire life to go back to study this thing that they were giving me for free, and now I went back. Why? What did I learn? Why was it important? Well, first of all, once I decided to become an actor in that movie theater, okay, that's where it came. Once I decided to become an actor, that was my decision. It wasn't anybody, my mother's influence, anybody else's blah, blah, blah. It was like me and me doing it for me, right? I said, okay, well, what's it going to take for me to do this? And what's going to keep me happy every day that I do this? Well, it's going to have to be new challenges, new things that are exciting. Well, along the way, along everybody's way, when you're pursuing something, you reach a point where maybe you're not interested anymore. You know, you learned as much as you want to learn about that thing. So I started taking Black theater history serious while studying Shakespeare, because I saw, oh, maybe it's the capitalist in me, but I saw this is why everybody keeps doing his work. This is how this got passed down. I understand now. It's just a matter of, it's like Jews in bar mitzvah. You know, it's rites of passage. It's a common body of knowledge. It's the Shakespeare is as much a part of the story of being an actor as anything ever will be.
Mm-hmm.
That's and Black theater is way bigger than the actor, but it's a part of being an actor. It's a part of that history. And so the same thing with Black theater history, I didn't start taking that serious until I started seeing the connection. I started seeing, oh, wait a minute. It was my white professor, Sanford Robbins, who said to me, you guys, you come into the theater and you don't, and it's just you.
Right.
When I come to theater, I can with the entire history of the theater community. I come to rehearsal, I come with and I was like, holy smoly. You want to talk about coming with a pot. So, and that when I learned that, I come into rehearsal with Lorraine, August, you know, I come in with Paul Robeson comes into all of my rehearsals. You know what I'm saying? Canada Lee is huge. His contribution, the Black Shakespearean actors. So once you start, and this is African. You see, we did this libation. I mean, this is what he put me up on. Was no, this theater thing is the thing. We are accessing the whole of human energy that has ever existed. That's what we're doing. So that's when I started going, wait a minute, I better figure out just who to bring into what conversations, because that's a whole lot. So for me, that's when I started taking it serious.
Okay. What about you, Mr.
Well,
Lowell?
I had experience in terms of, I was saying I had a similar reaction to Shakespeare early on. And like you, I lived in Louisville, Kentucky, went to legally segregated schools. So I was in the 7th grade. Didn't have much exposure through schools to the theater. I do remember they took us to see the Louisville Symphony several times. So I got exposed to classical music in that sense. But still, classical music, Shakespeare, those kinds of highbrow arts was not what I was exposed to or interested in.
Right.
And it wasn't until after I got past my Goldilocks thing and got in college and started, well, actually in high school, was in the high school senior play and did some local theater. But of course, my parents were not going to send me back at that time to college to study theater, study acting. So I pursued a safe career in psychology. And that was good too, because I found now later on, as I got my MFA, it's good to know a lot about psychology, because who am I portraying? Human beings, and understand psychology of human beings. So for my acting students, you might want to take a course in psychology or philosophy or history. They say, why? I just want to be an actor. And I say, you just do not get it. Trust me. And then I have to sometimes ask them, just trust me. The course in psychology, and then come back to me next semester and tell me whether you still want to be an actor. So it's for a lot of Black people is the exposure. Also, you mentioned Canada Lee, another great Shakespearean, which got me to really appreciate Shakespeare, was Ira Aldrich, who was a Black Shakespeare.
Huge.
Yes. Who performed on American stages, but also but also performed on stages in London and Britain. In fact, as we know, most of our a number of our Black performers back in the day had to go to Europe to be accepted or to be found or known. Josephine Baker, for example. So I learned, and when I learned that, like you said, it's about the word, and I'm sure Mr. Williams will also be able to talk about it, being that he's a storyteller, how important the word is. So Shakespeare for me was learning to wrap my mouth around those words and do what my teachers had been teaching me when I went to segregated schools. I remember a lesson relates to theater. We had to come up to the line up to my teacher and shake her hand and introduce ourselves. If you look her in the eye, she would lift your chin up to make you look her in the eye. If you gave her a weak handshake, she'd slap your hand. If you didn't enunciate your name clearly, she would make you keep enunciating, sometimes over enunciating. Well, I said when I got in master's class and was taking voice and speech, I said, oh, my Black teachers were teaching me this back when I was in the 7th grade. So I guess a lot to be learned in a part of this, and be open to all of what theater is about. And it's so when we talk about Black theater, we got to talk about to a degree about white theater in terms of what Black theater is not opposed to what is white theater and what is white theater not. And those things right now are bumping up against each other because there's all kinds of controversies going on now about Black theater and Black theater and abused within white theaters. And I'm going to stop and let Mr. Williams start the other.
Well, thank you, Mr. Williams. Before I get into what I want to say, I just want to say to you that talking about doing a role in drag, I played Miss Raj in the Colored Museum, so I kind of understand where you're coming from with that. I'm glad you mentioned storytellers because if we go back to before there was anything that we would call Black theater, before the Middle Passage or any of that, we had what some people call griots, which is really a misrepresentation of what they are. Griot is a French word that just means somebody who performs on the street. But the actual name of these people, well, in some cultures, is jolly, right? And these are the people who through various means, mostly dealing music and poetry, were able to tell the stories of the history of their people. You know, all the rulers, all the important events. And if you think about it, music is one of the best memory aids you can have. Right. If I were to sing a melody to you, Or if I were to say, I got sunshine on a cloudy day, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. And you could probably finish the lines, and you probably haven't thought about that in years. But it's still a part of your memory because of the music that's associated with it, right? So these jollies contained, I mean, like encyclopedic knowledge, because a lot of these languages were not written, and so people had to remember. Now, the thing about that is they didn't have distractions like we have today. There was no internet, there was no TV, there was no telephone, none of that stuff. So basically, all your time is spent in studying, you know, the history of your people or whatever. And these were kind of like, it was kind of like a caste system. The jollies, certain family names would indicate that a person is a jolly. He and his ancestors, and all this information is passed down from generation to generation. So here comes the middle passage. We get brought over here, and I want to say a little something about minstrelsy. We're brought over here, and on the occasions where the good master would allow us to have a little time off where we could relax and enjoy ourselves, we would do that with music and dancing and fooling around. Well, the master's observing this, and he thinks what he doesn't know is that all the stuff we're doing that he's so entertained by is we're making fun of him, right? So he takes this thing that he sees, and he co-opts it and tries to take ownership of it, not knowing that he's imitating somebody that was imitating him in the first place. Right? So now you got this guy, this white guy in blackface, who's, you know, portraying what he thinks a black person is like, not knowing that he got the idea of what that black person was like from watching the black person imitating what he was like as a white person. That's how convoluted the concept of minstrelsy is. I mean, it's still prevalent today. Like, life is minstrelsy. You know, we spend a lot of time as black people trying to be like white people. And guess what happened after integration? All our culture, they co-opted all our cultural stuff. You know, the handshake, the whole thing, man. They tried to become us. At the same time, we're trying to become them. Now, if you go back into like the early beginnings of, well, I guess what you would call professional black theater, some of the earliest were places like the Caramoo House. I think that started around 1915.
Hold up. I'm sorry, Bob. You was on mute, someone. That's why we.
Baba.
What?
Baba.
Say that again. Yes.
Round and round it goes.
Say that again.
Round and round it goes. Round and round it goes.
Oh yeah, where it stops, nobody knows.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. That's a key. When we talk about black theater history, see, especially when we talk from, which my thesis is, you weren't here for this, Baba, but my thesis is it has no beginning or ending. You see, there's nothing that is not black theater history.
Right.
And for the simple fact that we are the recorders of history.
Right.
We invented the notion.
And Baba, that whole...
And that in itself is a story. And but you say, I like the minstrelsy thing. You say us imitating them, and then them imitating us, but that's continually happens every day, right? It's like the men imitating the women, right? I mean, gay culture is imitation of black women. And so it's like everybody imitating each other. It's like round and round. It's a carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy, until the point where authenticity is, almost mythological.
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to say a play in terms of theater history that really highlighted what you're talking about, Baba, is Douglas Ward's Absence, where Black actors are in whiteface,
Yeah.
portraying the way they see white people to be. So there was a play that specifically showed that.
I was in that show.
If you understood, so you could, okay, well then you could take, for instance, the thing that's missing, because they did it at the African American Arts and Cultural Center. Some of the young people there. Don't know how much, well, I'm sure they did there, but if it was done at schools, what's needed is then to go back and let's discuss what you saw. That's what you didn't get, Mr. Ward. When you were in school, there was no discussion of the fact of what we saw, how the context in which it was theater, what was the story about, why do people tell stories? Was a moral story? What was that moral? Those are the things that are missing in education and in theater education. I just want to add, the young lady that was in, she comes in, said that Ira Aldridge performed at the Caramoo House.
Right. So,
so I guess when that was staged on which he performed.
What is the, could y'all give more information on the Caramoo House?
Yeah, sure can. I got that's what I was reaching for when I was rattling the papers.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been online looking at a lot of stuff, man.
Let me get some more information on Ira Aldridge.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
While you do that, let me give the information on who Ira Aldridge is. Okay. Listen to this. This comes from Shakespeare and Sable, A History of Black Shakespearean Actors. And this is why you see, Joseph, Shakespeare doesn't belong to anyone. Shakespeare's not white theater. This is the point I was making earlier. I don't know what other people were saying, but I was saying when I discovered these meta stories inside the story that we created, because we created story. So there's nothing that is not Black theater. So once you get past that, then you're free to roam around the cabin. You see, once you look at, there's white people over there, and then there's some separation. But once you realize, oh, no, all of this is mine. Everything's mine. So now, what part of it am I interested in today? Shakespeare's mine, just like Chekhov is mine. You see, that's what theater teaches us. You see, so Ira Aldridge, for those who don't know Ira Aldridge, listen to this. The experience of Hewlett and the African Company made it clear that America was not yet ready to accept Black actors in the legitimate drama. Those who were bent on a professional career looked to other more hospitable lands. So it was that in the middle of the 19th century, so we know Ira. You see how it's three. It's me, Baba, and Lowell. Negroes who know enough not to go mess white people by yourself. What Richard Pryor said, nigga, I told you not go fuck with them Jews without no money. You see, we these and back then to go to England, that was like, come on. He ain't going over there by himself. So it was that in the middle of the 19th century, 3 Black Americans moved to England, becoming involuntary exiles. Gotta hang on to that for a minute. Exile for theater, to do Shakespeare from home in order to soothe their love affair with the Shakespearean stage. These actors were Aldridge, S. Morgan Smith, and Paul Molyneux. Okay? Those are the names. Historians. Those are books. Those are plays. Those are mini series. I'm talking, you know, if I see another black person do anything adapting white people, I might go to your house myself and choke you out. Okay? With too many untold black stories. I don't want to see no more adaptations of Alexander Hamilton, blackface. I don't hear nothing about Lincoln. I don't hear nothing about nothing that ain't black. I will come. I will. I'm an anonymous person. I'll come choke you out and walk away. Nobody won't even notice. It's a threat. I'm done.
Right.
You know, it's interesting.
You know.
Since we're talking about Shakespeare, I happen to I liked Shakespeare when I was in high school, and my minor is in English literature, and I read all. Well, I didn't read all of it because some of it's boring, but all the interesting Shakespeare I read. But in terms of this whole concept of black theater imitating white, the Lafayette Theater in New York was founded by Orson Welles and John Houseman. But I did not founded by them, but they did a parody on Macbeth, and they set it in a Caribbean island that they said it was in the vicinity of Haiti, but they pulled a lot of Haiti culture into that because, you know, Macbeth got all them witches and all that stuff in it. So Orson Welles and John Houseman recreated Macbeth, I guess the same way that the Wizard of Oz was created.
Right.
You know, it's turned into a black production. There's a photograph and some of the stuff I was looking up of the crowd of people standing outside the theater for the grand opening of Macbeth. The whole crowd of black folks, all dressed up, whole throng, you know. So that that evolved into what was called the New Lafayette Theater. A brother named Robert Macbeth had pulled that together. Actually, that was one of the models that the M Ensemble Company used when we first organized. We were looking at the New Lafayette Theater to try to, you know, steal some of their juice, I guess you could say. There's I don't know. There's the Negro Ensemble Company, Douglas Turner Ward.
Oh my goodness, that's
he's the one. He's the one that wrote the play Day of Absence. Yeah. Now back in the 70s, I was a cast member in a production of the Day of Absence, and this was back in the time before there was an official holiday for Martin Luther King, but we were lobbying for that. So some of us in the we used to do a Day of Absence. We used to travel around, kind of like the Free Southern Theater used to do, going to, you know, different places, talking about social and political issues. So we would do Day of Absence to encourage people that if you want a Martin Luther King holiday, just take it. Don't ask permission. Just take it. You know, on January 15th, just call in sick.
Right.
Or take one of your leave days or something. You know, just take it. You know, and why don't we have holidays for Malcolm X, and Paul Robeson and Ozzie Davis and Ruby Dee? I mean, you know, we need to recognize our own people as opposed to begging somebody else to build something for us, for our people. We need to take that into our own hands. But you know, Day of Absence is another play Douglas Turner Ward wrote called Contribution. M Ensemble did that way back in the day too. That was about a young man who wanted to go to a street demonstration, a civil rights demonstration, and he's living with his grandmother, and you know, she's wishing him well and telling him to be careful, you know, and then, you know, try to stay out of the, you know, the violent part of it or whatever. But she asked him to take a pie to the sheriff's office on the way to the demonstration. So he goes and delivers the pie and goes to the demonstration. And then, you know, when things get a little edgy in the demonstration, somebody comes up and says, well, you know, the sheriff is dead. He died. He died in his office, you know. And then you go back to the house where the grandmother is, and she's filling out an application for a new job. She had been the sheriff's cook, and so now she's filling out an application for a new job because basically that pie she sent was what killed the sheriff. Right? That was her contribution to the movement. Yeah, Douglas Turner Ward, Negro Ensemble Company. People like Robert Hooks at the time we started the M Ensemble. Ted was telling us that Robert Hooks was in D.C. trying to start a company similar to the Negro Ensemble Company, and we needed to get our stuff kind of in motion before he got cranked up. Yeah, so you know, but the thing is, like Lowell and Summerhill was saying,
somebody have a TV on?
we got to tell our own. Yeah, we got to tell our own stories. I noticed from a lot of community theater companies, the ones that have their own writers, the ones that have writers in house, they're the ones who are thriving.
Right.
Because they don't always have to depend on somebody else's material to produce. You know.
Is somebody watching it through YouTube? Because if so, if you turn it, because we hear the feedback.
Oh yeah, I hear that too. I don't know where that's coming from. So put on some headphones.
I don't know. I don't want to hear it. You still hear it when
it's not anybody. It's not any one of us.
No, it's not.
It was a young lady that was in earlier who comes in when they gave me the information about Aldrich being at Caramoo House, but I don't see her now. Sometimes she was at the bottom, would come in at the bottom.
Well, that was just that was just a comment. Yeah, that I can have some of the comments pop up. But, yeah, I'm not sure
you
where
know
that
that Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston.
You don't know where the feedback is coming from, Joseph?
Nah, it stopped though.
Yeah, if that person put on headphones, that should eliminate it.
What were you saying, Baba?
I was about to say that Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston had a falling out over a play that they co-wrote. And Zora Neale took it to Caramoo House, and they were going to produce it without Langston's knowledge. And Langston got word of it, and that caused a big blow up. Now, Langston and Zora Neale used to run together. I mean, they used to be running buddies, and they fell out big time over. I forget the name of the play, but it was a play that they had co-written, and she offered it to Caramoo. That's it. Mule Bone. That's it. Mule Bone. Right. Yeah.
Okay. George C. Wolfe eventually directed and produced it.
George C. Wolfe. He's the author of the Colored Museum.
Okay, yeah, I'm over here collecting names as y'all talk.
I wanted to go back.
He produced Mule Bone.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Something you say, Baba, about people doing, and I think you did too, Summer, about Shakespeare. I won an Obie for a play called Popey Nongena, and the woman who played Popey, the whole cast except for myself and one other white actor, they were all from South. And you were mentioning about exile. These actors were exiled from South Africa because they had done anti-apartheid plays. Right. And at that time, during apartheid, that was considered treason. Mm-hmm. So they were now in America doing this play, which I to get a role in and win a, not an individual, but a cast. Our whole cast got an Obie for our music performance.
Right.
But Pope's husband, his name was Welcome and Somi. He I just was looking up. He just died recently, I guess, from a stroke. But he wrote and she performed in it. Tuli was his wife, a Zulu Macbeth.
How about that?
And it was well received. I guess it played lots of places. He went on to become a writer, and I guess some thefts of properties or something. But he went on to become a South African playwright of note. I also wanted to talk about Black people in the arts, not just in theater. Hold on just a minute. I don't know whether anyone heard of the Black Mozart, where this is going off of our theater a little bit, but it's still of the arts and Black people in the arts. His name was Joseph Boulogne Chevalier de Saint Georges.
Yes.
I will read what it says of him.
Yes, I've heard of him.
Joseph Chevalier de Saint Georges was a classical composer, virtuoso violinist, a conductor of a leading symphony orchestra in Paris, and a renowned champion fencer.
Yes.
And the white Mozart, who we all have heard of, was jealous of him. In fact, he was more known in France than the white Mozart.
Yeah.
And was the white Mozart, I use those to make that distinction, was helped by Chevalier's father, who was, of course, a dignitary. And of course, Chevalier was the product of his liaison with a Black woman. But my point is, here is this man who we about. We were symphonies. I knew about Mozart. There was such a thing as the Black Mozart, nor his history.
Right.
Part of my other background that I'm talking about, I'm playwriting now. And as a result, I'm doing lots of research. And I'm finding all this stuff about Black people that I didn't know, like all the great Black opera singers back in the 1800s. So when we talk about what is Black theater, I think we have to take into account all these people who have gone before us that we don't know about, who were doing things that were not necessarily today seen as Black. For instance, say white people. We're going to go to the symphony, and we're going to hear music by Joseph Boulogne. Who is that? Oh, he's better than Mozart. Come listen. And then we reveal he's Black. Oh.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting thing to think about. We look at what is Black theater.
Yeah, I actually have a video because I did a profile about
Summer. Don't come.
Yeah, I was saying I have a video about him on his channel. I did a profile of him. So yeah, check that out. Yes. Uh-oh.
You know, one of my favorite plays.
What? Joseph Boulogne Chevalier de Saint George.
Okay, and you can put it makes me. That's it. Video so people could.
Yeah. I will. I'll make sure it's a link in the description when people can go back and watch it.
Yeah, it makes me think about Alexander Dumas.
Yep.
And the Blacks and what's that? Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, Alexander Pushkin.
Yeah, that's right.
The Mask.
The Russian.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got a story about him. When I was an actor in New York, I was supposed to do a film about Pushkin. And what'd you say, Summer? Anyway, I auditioned for a movie that was going to be done by some Russian.
I
Oh, that delay coming in.
Uh,
Go ahead.
yeah, am I
Yeah.
delayed?
Well, no, summer was.
I was just gonna
Well, at any rate,
challenge us to not perpetuate the cycle of ignorance. I have to say it like that.
exactly.
Challenge us to not perpetuate
But I think
the cycle of ignorance. Stop this instant. Hold on. Stop this instance with the comparisons. Stop saying the black this, the black that. Stop it. I say cease and desist. You see? Give these people their own identities. Cease and desist with the comparisons. When I hear seasoned, like the elite of the elite August Wilson actors that are living, and some of them I know, and some of them you don't know, and they make these comparisons to Shakespeare, I wince for them, that their puny minds have to go back to a white for their validation. August Wilson thing. George Wolfe was recently asked, George Wolfe, which we have to get to, because he's the director of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is the tip of the lead edge of this conversation right now, is available in everyone's room. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. That's the leading edge of this conversation. But I wince at these things when they say, oh, he's our Shakespeare. He's the bard. No, he ain't, nigga. He's August Wilson. Shakespeare, what's he with August Wilson?
Shakespeare is the white August Wilson.
His canon was as beautifully, if you want to do that, but I don't believe in turnabout. I don't have an axe to grind. You see, I'm free of all of that. I don't have to belittle Shakespeare to recognize August Wilson's greatness either. You see, this is 2021, okay? Now, people who didn't like 2020, you're gonna really hate 2021, okay? Because 2020 is the name of the decade. So it's 2021, and then guess what comes after 2021, baby? 2020 part 2.
Yep.
And part 3 all the way through. So if you got a meta story going on about 2020, then buckle your seatbelts, baby, because it's just getting started. But what I'm on about, Lowell, is escape the gravitational pull of the white man's meta story. Race is a story created by the white man in hopes that he could somehow measure up. Simple as that. That's why you create those stories, because you got to compensate for something. So let us cease and desist with any further comparisons to anything, anybody to anybody. Let's stop. Dale Carnegie said the sweetest sound human beings enjoy is the sound of their own name. Let's say the name. We started this by saying Walter Dallas's name. I'm not gonna call Walter Dallas the black nothing. Walter Dallas is Walter Dallas. He has his own story. See, that's when you get the real history, Joseph. When everybody gets their say, when you get quotes from these humans, that's why I'm so glad Lowell is writing plays. I'm so glad Baba is writing, because I want to be able to not just say your name. I want to be able to say, Baba, so-and-so said these words. Lowell Williams said thus and such. Baba Olusegun said, that's history, Joseph. Am I lying?
Nah, it's history.
That's history to me.
I'm glad you mentioned Walter.
When you say Nat Turner said those words, yes, talk about Walter, Baba. You know him the longest.
Well, I've known Walter all my life. We grew up together. We went to elementary school together, high school, college. I don't really remember a time when I didn't know him. And you know, we're talking about what somebody said. That last conversation you and I had with him before he transitioned, that was special, man. That was really nice. Just to share that information with him, you know. But he's one of the unsung heroes. A lot of people don't know about him.
Mm-hmm.
Walter Dallas.
Until Joseph
cool.
writes his book about him.
Say it
That's
again.
what?
I said when Joseph Ward writes his book about Walter Dallas, then the world
Oh yeah.
will know.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm over here collecting names. So let me put that one. Yeah, I'm definitely collecting names because one of the things I know I want to do is learn some new things. I've learned about some of the key players. So can you, you all have named Canada Lee, Ira Aldridge, Dallas Turner Ward, Robert Hooks, George C. Wolfe, Milbone was mentioned, and then of course Milbone's not a person, but Milbone was mentioned, and then Walter Dallas. So like as far as we talked a bit about like Lorraine Hansberry, but who were some of the Black women that made great contributions to Black theater?
Ntozake Songe.
Okay, I'm familiar with her.
Definitely.
Lorraine Hansberry. Who's the sister that wrote Top Dog Underdog?
What was her? We just talked about her.
We did.
Yeah.
Susie Lauren Park. Susan Lauren
Right.
Park.
Yeah. There's probably a lot more than we know.
Mentioned earlier, Sam Hart Williams.
Okay.
There's a sister in Atlanta who was a high school classmate of mine. Her name is Andrea Fry, Frye. They had a group called can't think of the name of it now. I got all that information in my phone, but I'm using my phone for the meeting, so I can't look at it. But she was doing a show, like a one-woman show of slave narratives. And I saw her do one of those, man. That was one of the most moving presentations I've ever seen.
Right.
Andrea Fry. Yeah. Oh God, that name will come to me. The name of that group in Atlanta, but she's based in Atlanta. People like what's her name? She's my cousin's sister-in-law, Pearl Cleage. Pearl Cleage, excellent playwright. One of her most well-known plays is one called Going West.
Okay.
Pearl Cleage. She has actually FAMU Essential Theater has done a couple of her plays, and she's been there to do a lecture series in the theater department.
Right.
That was just about 3 years ago.
That's real cool. Because like I say,
let me say this.
Go ahead.
Joseph.
Go ahead.
Here's a book for you.
Bring it the other way.
Okay. It's called, I'm gonna give you the title, Black Women Playwrights.
Okay, Black Women
That's
Playwrights.
the title. By Marsh-Lockett. Now this is again the scratch of the surface. Again, I have to redirect this back to the fact that Black history has no beginning or ending, right? So Lorraine, we know Lorraine because she gets on what? The Great White Way. Now, when you go back, and I've seen some of these plays, I don't have any names because the names are exhaustive. I mean, the list when you start looking at, you just reach a point where you're like, you go, of course, but like how we had Hidden Figures and people were like, oh, I can't believe it. No, believe it. Okay.
Right.
What did Dave Chappelle say in his last special? He said, my imitation of the white men writing the Constitution. Nigga, get back in that room and finish writing the Constitution.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we invented writing, so we won't ever come with an exhaustive list. We'll never. But this book, Black Women Playwrights, has hundreds of Black women playwrights that go before Lorraine Hansberry, come after her, and then I'm gonna just say some of my favorites. Connie Barfield, I reference her in my book. Connie Barfield's Blue Door to me is like the beginning and the sun sets. But I mean, they're really. I mean, today, Black women, I think, are really outpacing Black men. I mean, Katori Hall. I mean, she did Mountaintop. Have you heard of Mountaintop, Joseph Ward?
Nope. Something else I'm learning. Write that down too.
Okay. Write Mountaintop down. Mountaintop is pivotal. Mountaintop is a pivotal thing because it's about the last night of Martin Luther King's life.
Okay.
It's a
Oh, wait a minute. Is that
of the last night of Martin Luther King's life.
Is that the one that takes place in a hotel room?
The Rain Motel. Yep.
Okay, but I'm saying the
yes, it is.
In that play you're talking about, Mountaintop, that happens inside the hotel room, right? Because I saw a production at FAMU. Yeah, but he had some conversations with the housekeeper or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It was intimation was a relationship.
Yeah, that's a pivotal play.
Yeah, that's a heavyweight production. I saw that. Yeah.
I want to throw another name.
But that playwright is a woman.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All her work is fire, fire, fire. Katori Hall. So you asked
Victoria Hall.
Yeah.
You asked about the women. You gotta put
Katori, Katori.
Katori is fire, fire, fire.
Okay. Victoria Hall.
HAL.
All right.
She's been fire. She just getting started. But there are more names than we could ever come up with. Tanya Barfield, fire. I mean, you know, each of us have our different ones that we've seen. Of course.
Yeah, Mr. Lowe got some names he want to throw in.
Okay, go ahead,
Just gonna throw Ed Bullins.
Yes,
Ed
absolutely.
Bullins
no, women.
Another name you should know.
Oh, Ed Bullins, yeah, he's brilliant.
That's right, Ed Bullins, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, also talking about playwrights.
Yeah.
Right.
Not just women.
Low.
But if we're talking about women, you also should know this one. Can you see Passover?
That's all right. What's the author's name? Antoinette
Nwandu. She's African.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nwandu.
All right. Yeah, so I got
another Black male playwright is, and check out Jeremy O. Harris.
Jeremy O. Harris.
I don't know.
Right.
What's his play that he wrote?
Unfortunately, he was on Broadway somewhere. Well, still
Right.
he's being slave play.
That's the name of it?
Slave play.
Yeah, that's the name. Yeah, okay.
Got it.
Oh, Jeremy O. Harris. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are some more contemporary playwrights of note.
Okay.
I got one for you.
And then, of course, thank you so much. There will be eventually, I will throw Lowell Williams in there eventually.
Right. Hey, we're gonna write it.
Absolutely.
Well, we already got it down.
But I haven't
We already got that one down. That was the first name on here.
I got one for you.
As soon as I get
Norbert Davidson. Norbert Davidson.
Okay.
As far as I know, he only wrote one play.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Hajj Malik. As far as I know, I could be wrong, but I think the M Ensemble is the only company that ever produced it.
Right.
Who did we do that for? We did that for some big convention thing in Miami or something. But anyway, there are 9 characters in the play, and at various points during the play, each of the characters becomes Malcolm. And there is a scene in there done in blackface, which is a tribute to Burt Williams, the blackface entertainer from the late 19th, early 20th century, who was not allowed to perform without being in blackface in front of white people. Yeah, but that play Hajj Malik is pretty powerful. It takes you all the way through Malcolm's life. It's almost like reading the biography in a condensed version.
Right.
There's somebody else. Oh, there's a playwright out of New Orleans. Well, Norbert is from New Orleans, and there's another guy named Chakula Chajua, Chakula Chajua, 3 words. Chakula Chajua, Jua.
Okay.
He's a poet and a playwright. He's part of the Free Southern Theater. John O'Neill, another guy named Kalamu Yasalam, KAlamuyASALAM, Kalamu Yasalam. These guys, I Googled these guys today, except for Norbert. But Kalamu, you can find him online.
Mm-hmm.
John O'Neill, who is one of the founders of the Free Southern Theater. A lot of people don't. They were based in New Orleans. I think they probably still got something going on there, but they've originated in Mississippi with the group that was originally called the Black Panther Party. This is before the Panthers in LA. These were guys who were doing voter registration in Alabama and Mississippi. And the Free Southern Theater was formed to go to do productions about getting politically involved.
Right.
And they traveled around and they eventually settled in New Orleans. But John O'Neill and some others were instrumental in the formation of this organization called the Southern Black Cultural Alliance. This was a group of some 30 African American theater companies throughout the South. Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida. There were about 30 organizations, and it started in, I think, 1972. They had 2 meetings a year. The first meeting was on Memorial Day weekend, which was more like a conference where everybody came together. We cry on each other's shoulder, talk about how much money we don't have and how we're going to continue. And then on, I think, Thanksgiving weekend, we would host a theater festival, which moved around between the cities that had the companies. right? So every member organization was given an opportunity to host a theater festival over Thanksgiving weekend, where all we did was everybody did a play, everybody did a piece. You know, we spent the whole weekend, you know, had like a theater festival, and it moved around. We did one in Miami, New Orleans. Where else did we go? I think there was one in like Austin, Texas. It bounced around. And one of the groups that's still hanging on from that is a group in Knoxville, Tennessee. They call themselves the Carpetbag Theater.
Okay.
And, you know, when I made a comment earlier about the companies that tend to have longevity are ones that have in-house writers.
Yeah.
Carpetbag from the beginning has had an in-house writer. They used to do some amazing stuff, man. Crazy stuff. They did one play about a circus that had all these different attractions, like the Siamese twins who couldn't stand each other. You know, I mean, they just used to do some crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. They had one character who was a horse. He came out, and the brother convinced me he was a horse, man. I had no doubt in my mind that brother's a horse. You know, yeah. They had one production I saw took place in an asylum with crazy people. And in the opening scene, you see the nurses come in and all these crazy people running around, and the nurse wants to like draw some blood from one of these patients. And I guess I can say this on this mature format here. The first line in the play is this patient asking the nurse, "What? No shit sample?" And I'm like, oh my God, boy, these people are off the chain. But the Carpetbag Theater, I've always enjoyed them, and they're still active today. And we're talking early 1970s when I first came across them. There was also a group at Florida State called the Black Players Guild. And when I first came here, like if you know Dr. Matthews, who's the dean now at FAMU. She and I, after I got here, she and I ran the Black Players Guild. I was the president, she was the vice president. And we did, that's when we did the Colored Museum. We did, the play The Mighty Gents.
George C. Wolfe.
Yeah, we did The Mighty Gents.
Yes,
and we did,
play.
Yeah, and we did the Colored Museum. But that my first contact with the Florida State Black Players Guild was sometime in the 70s. A young lady from Florida State came to one of the SBCA conferences. And she started talking about being from this group called the Black Players Guild at FAMU. That was in the 70s. So when I show up here in the late 80s and find out that there's still a Black Players Guild going on, I'm like, I gotta get a piece of that. You know, I gotta get involved with that. So yeah, these roots run deep.
Right. Now that's amazing.
I think what you're saying.
Go ahead.
I was going to say what you're saying, Baba, is what I was saying originally about back in the 70s and the 60s. There was so much Black theater and so many different companies. And when you were mentioning about a group that got together over Thanksgiving and traveled to these different, that shows you how much many different theaters there were. And as you're saying, there's still a lot today operating.
Yeah.
M Ensemble example, who are doing called Black theater. And as you can see, most of it was around like Mississippi, Alabama, dealing with voter registration or other social issues. Those are mainly the stories right now that we're. However, as a writer, I'm also challenging myself not write about just about. Well, if I just from what I know best, that would be about Black men. But I'm trying to write about get in the head of a Black woman, for example. I'm trying to get into the head of a Black transsexual or a Black transgender person? Can I write these stories and be authentic and be taken seriously, coming from a point of view that people say, well, why is he writing about that? Why doesn't he stay in his lane, so to speak? And I'm saying, I don't know what my lane is, you know. I forget his
Yeah,
name,
see,
the Pulitzer what was that novel he won the Pulitzer for just recently? Any rate, I saw him down at the Arch, and he talked about how he's working on a novel about zombies.
mm-hmm.
People saying, but you're Black, why aren't you writing about Black people in slavery? And he says, I'm writing about Blacks, we die and we come back. And so he's getting out, putting me in this box. And I understand exactly what he's saying. What is when we start talking about Black theater and Black stories, and as you said, Summer, there is no beginning, there is no end. We don't know where it began, and we don't know where it's going to end. It's like God.
Yeah.
I'm done.
You know, it's interesting because there's a controversy going on right now in the movie industry about a film that has been labeled as a foreign language film, and it's up for an award for best foreign language film. But everybody wonders why it's not up for the best film award, because it's about people who immigrated to America. So it's an American story.
Exactly.
But the people are using their first language a lot in the movie. So they're trying to say it's a foreign language film and it needs to be restricted to that category. So yeah, that's kind of raggedy. Another theater company I wanted to mention is in Jacksonville. It's called the Stage Aurora Theater Company. And I saw their production of The Color Purple. It was magnificent. And I just read today that they have now got a branch in New York City. So they're now based in New York and Jacksonville. I'm kind of excited about that. I got to check on these guys and see what they're doing. But a guy named Ruben, what's his name? Ruben Hall.
Santiago.
Something.
Oh.
No. Where is it? I got the information close at hand, but I don't see it. And the River Niger. Oh, don't forget the River Niger.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget that. Yeah. I was offered
somebody.
That's a major.
Yeah.
There's a movie you can see of that. You can see that movie.
I wanted to add, this is kind of a plug.
In terms of the poetry, the history.
Also, another good play was No Place to Be Somebody.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Which again was on Broadway. But I wanted to add a little plug. I wanted to add a little plug for the and for myself. I direct a play for them, Emergency, by a writer named Daniel Beatty. He's also somebody you should know, Mr. Ward. He's a playwright who went to Yale Drama School, but he wrote this one-man play. We're doing on actors, but they play between them 47 different characters. So I'm putting that for people who in Florida, in the South Florida area, to maybe partake of this play that stimulate lots of conversation. It's from this entertainment.
Right.
So emergency. That's not
Emergency.
a
Right.
title to remember.
I
In
don't know how
some
much time
March,
we have,
they're
but I want
looking.
to squeeze in a couple more names.
The theater's
Yeah.
going to be able to open up
Well, yeah.
in terms of the pandemic, but they
Right.
might be able to open up in some fashion.
Okay.
I got another one for you.
What were you saying?
I got one more for you. Ceremonies
Okay.
and Dark Old Men.
Can I say
Ceremonies and Dark Old Men.
Get a word in edgewise?
Oh yeah.
Too old to talk.
No. So,
Let me in.
so what was that book you was holding up, Summer?
I don't really ask permission. I just show up.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The first, here's a book. Okay, it's one of many, but it's a rare book because and this is just one of many. Contemporary Black American playwrights and their plays. Okay, contemporary is always relative, but this is one that will blow your wig back. For instance, how many people on this call knew Adolph Caesar wrote a one-man play?
That I didn't
Nobody.
know.
Adolph Caesar.
Saw him in a.
We all know who Adolph Caesar is.
Yeah, I saw him in A Soldier Story. It was great.
Well, Baba, you know who Caesar is, yeah?
Who?
That voice.
You know who is, Baba?
I didn't quite understand what you said.
Baba, you don't know who Adolph Caesar
It was
is?
saying, do you know who Adolph Caesar is?
Adolph Caesar?
Adolph Caesar.
Oh yeah, he played when he was a sergeant in Soldier Story in the movie.
Soldier Story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what else? Even bigger.
I don't know.
What else was way bigger than so? You mentioned
What
it
is
earlier, just like 5 minutes ago.
I did what 5 minutes ago?
You say you mentioned it earlier.
The Color Purple? Oh, he was in that too. Yeah, he was in that too. That's correct. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Without Adolph Caesar, you got no Color Purple.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Adolph Caesar.
Right. I know who you're talking about.
He's the villain. He's Danny Glover's father. I mean,
right.
You know, he's the foundation of the Color Purple story, the film. He played
right.
He wrote The Square Root of Black Love. He's a playwright. So this book reveals some of that. So you have to warm
up. Wow.
The person you really want to know that gives us Ma Rainey. Without this person, you don't have to go watch Ma Rainey Netflix tonight.
Right.
Right.
Some of you might recognize the name. Some of you might not. The play called When the Chickens Came Home to Roost. We into Black theater history right now. Okay? Anybody know who wrote that play? First of all, who heard of that play?
I've heard of it.
Raise your hand. You heard of When the Chickens Came Home to Roost? You've heard of it. Okay. Is that a hand, Baba? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just heard of the name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So who was in that play? For those of you who raised their hand, what actor was in that play?
I don't know. I've just heard of it. I've never seen it.
Won an Obie Award for being in.
That I don't know. I just would like him.
Well, yeah, I'll give you a hint, Lowell. You used to date his ex-wife.
Who used to date his ex-wife? Who?
It said
You
Lowell.
talking about Denzel?
Do you know?
Who you about?
Denzel
Well, she's not ex.
Washington was in a play
I
called
haven't dated anybody's ex-wife.
Came Home to Roost. Okay, now getting into history, Joseph.
Well, but she's not ex, I don't
This is
think.
history. This is how history really works, right?
Right.
Okay, so
If
man, Williams,
she's still married, I think, to Pauletta.
her husband has an OB. Okay, she got an OB from this play when the chickens came home to roost.
Okay.
No one on this call knows who wrote that play. Well, without that play, there would probably be no Denzel Washington. That's how thin the thread is. Because without that OB, he's not, come on, you're not good. Your next step. It's just like high school. You might luck up, you know, but it's, you go from the OB to the Tony to the Oscar. That's kind of how, I mean, that's the, like high school, college, grad school. Same game. The person who wrote that play, to me, is the person responsible for everything that came after. And no one knows that person's name. Well, is a dearest friend, a personal mentor. I had the privilege of being in a couple of films with him. You could go now. I was hoping you would Google and finish the sentence before I revealed it, but he did me the greatest honor when he wrote the foreword to my second. His name is Lawrence Holder. That is the name. Now he gave us Denzel Washington, okay? Because the play is the thing. Actor is not the thing. Actors only as good as their material. Denzel Washington could be the greatest actor in the world, but if you ain't got no material that shows the world, do with that. So without Lawrence Holt, now Denzel might have got somebody else, got an OB with somebody else, but he didn't. So this is why I say things. Stop making the comparisons. Say the names. The name of the person who wrote the play that gave us Denzel Washington is Lawrence Holder. That's the name. Now, this man has given, and he wrote a play based on what? History. Malcolm said, when Kennedy got shot, that black man said, so the fuck what? Niggas get every damn day. I don't give a fuck. That's what Malcolm said. He said it, well, I'm an old farm boy. The chickens, a bad thing. It was a good thing. It make me kind of happy when the chickens came home to roost. And that's what this Kennedy death is. You causing destruction all around the world. Well, that's just the case. I'm just an old simple farm boy. But from my perspective, the chickens came home to roost. Now, this black man named Lawrence Holder created a whole play about that. But guess what he did? He's got 5-volume plays about historical moments that have happened in black life.
Right.
We know Denzel Washington. We don't know Lawrence Holder. That's your work, Joseph. That's my work at the Poetry Institute. That's what Lowell is doing with his plays. That's what Baba has dedicated his life to. And that's what we're about. That's what we're about, saying the names. Forget the comparisons. Forget any of that.
Right. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Ruben Stacy is on the cover of this book.
Who
his
is?
Story. His story is the story that tells. Ruben Stacy.
Ruben Stacy.
1935. Lynched in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for asking a woman for a cup of water on July 19th. If you ever been in South Florida, which we all have, in July, I didn't really get it until I had to walk 8 miles on or about July 19th in Miami, and I really started to get Ruben Stacy. It's like, I mean that heat. So in other words, what? The story of Black theater continues. It continues in what we're doing, what Bob is doing, what Lowell is doing every single day, what we're doing, and hundreds of men like us. See, we're just a representative. You could have got 3 other theater makers, you know, and we know them. But right now, what we're doing, and the immortal words of that great film, we collectivizing our energies.
Right.
That's what we're doing. That's what
And you know, I want to say
2020 is about. 2021, 2, 3.
we're talking. We're talking about telling stories, and I want to say to any audience, people listening, you got a story to tell. We all got stories to tell. We all can be writers if we want to be. I had no idea that it was going to be a playwright, really. You can say I have so lots of friends and acquaintances over the years would tell me, you should write. I say, I'm not a writer. Well, what am I doing now? Writing. So the point I'm making, anybody with the world can sit down and write their story. You just reminded me, some were talking about Rubens and that cup of water. I remember when I lived in Louisville, seeing these 2 little Black boys who were sitting on top of a fruit market who sold watermelons. And they were up there advertising the stereotype that Black people eat watermelon. In the middle of the summer in Louisville, Kentucky. If you ever been up on a roof, that shit gets hot. Yeah. So I'm thinking, if Ruben Stacy had that to get a cup of water, I wonder if I could write a story about what was going through these 2 little boys, and they were like 9 and 10 years old, maybe, sitting on top of that roof. Maybe a conversation between the 2 of them while they were eating watermelon. You know, it's just all kind. My point is, stories can out of nowhere. And I just got that in my head because of something Summer just said. I sit in hears and stuff and overhear conversations and say, oh, there's a story there to be told. So people watching, listening to us, you got stories too. It's not just us who are theater makers. You are a theater maker too. Right. One, if you go to the theater as an audience member, you're a theater maker.
Absolutely.
But I'm also talking about if you want to become that level of becoming a writer, you can become a writer too. So I encourage all of us out there to think about writing. If it's not but sitting down with a yellow pad and just writing down some story that you remember. And before you know it, you can develop it into possibly a play. If you have the wherewithal and want to do that. I'll tell you, writing plays is a very interesting process. You gotta like the thoughts.
Right. I definitely want to thank all of you gentlemen for stopping by, and like 2 hours worth of information, and it don't even feel like it, but it's 2 hours worth of information that people got privileged to. Y'all just dropping knowledge, like I always say, like Mansa Musa going from one end to the other, just dropping jewels off, just dropping jewels on people's heads. So I definitely want to appreciate it. But before we go, and I'll start with you, Baba. How can people get in contact with you, and what are some upcoming projects that you have going on, whether they in the realm of theater or not? Just things you got going on so we can support you.
Okay, you can reach me by email at Pyramid Productions with an S 1977 at gmail.com. Pyramid, PRYAMID Productions, PRODUCTIONS 1977 at Gmail. I'm on Facebook, Olusegun Samuel Williams. I'm on Instagram, Baba Olusegun, and I'm on LinkedIn too, but I don't use that much.
Right.
But yeah, but those are ways to contact me kind of right away.
Okay.
It's Instagram or Facebook Messenger or something like that, or email.
Okay. Okay. You have any upcoming projects?
Not right now. I'm trying to write my memoir, and I'm trying to learn to speak Haitian Creole.
Okay.
Speaking of writing stories, I wrote a document about some of my activities in the Haitian community back during the 1980s when they had all those people locked up in that Chrome Avenue detention center, and an incident where a whole bunch of dead bodies washed up in West Palm Beach, Haitians who had drowned, the boat capsized. Excuse me, a situation where I rescued 3 Haitians who had escaped from Chrome Avenue. So anyway, I wrote this document about it, and I got in my head the other day because when I got a chance to go to Haiti, I took a copy of that document with me and gave it to the president of one of the universities over there, but it's in English. And he told me he could read a little English, so I gave it to him. But I got this idea about a month ago to translate the whole thing into Haitian Creole.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that, thank God, to Google Translate, bro. I translated 9 pages into Haitian Creole, which I'm using now to try to help me with my vocabulary so I can learn to speak this language.
Right.
Because there's something about having a language, you know, not to mention a country, but if you got a language that belongs to you. See, Haitian Creole is interesting because it sounds like French, but it's not. And French-speaking people don't understand it. It's almost like us speaking Ebonics, and people don't get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We made a mistake by giving that up because everybody else just became bilingual.
Right.
We're gonna speak this when we're at home. We're gonna talk like this, and when we go out and talk to them other people, we're gonna talk like this. We're gonna always have our language that they don't understand, so we can communicate freely. There's a book I read. It was written by Pearl Clege's husband. It's called The Carthaginian Honor Society, and it's about these guys in Atlanta that got this organization where they're trying to help the community, but they're just a little bit gangster. And when they have their meetings, I think I told you this once before. They conduct their meetings in sign language, so they can't be eavesdropped. They can't get tapped. They you walk by the room, you don't hear anything because everybody's speaking sign language. I'm like, that is so cool, But it's those kind of things that allow us to maintain our identity and our cultural selves. To keep from getting diluted with all this other craziness. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm into, trying to write my memoir and straighten out get my legacy together.
Okay. Now
I'm writing some music. I'm doing mostly music now. Most of the time I'm playing music.
Okay.
I'm looking at doing a little bit of recording with my little thingy right here, this kalimba.
Right. Do your thing. Do it. Summer Hill. How can people get in contact with you, Summer Hill, and what upcoming? I know you mentioned earlier, but repeat some of the upcoming projects you have coming up.
Sure. So it's my great privilege to be able to associate with these men and to learn from them and Baba that you will please send a link to Joseph of your one-person show that's on YouTube, so I can see that work, because that to me
Oh, How to Create a
is very
Nobody. It's
groundbreaking.
called
For a
How to
long
Create a
time,
Nobody.
How to Create a Nobody. Okay.
Yeah, How to Create a Nobody.
yeah, How to Create a Nobody. You
It's
must
it's
needs
only
see
about
that is a
it's,
critical part of Black theater history.
All right. Got it written down.
yeah.
Yeah, let them see
It's
it. Let me
about
tell them about it. Let
30
them see
minutes,
it.
but it's broken up
I
into
mean,
two
in
parts.
Black theater history, you must,
Okay.
yeah, you must see it. You must understand what is what, okay? And you understand, we think Daniel Beatty and, people, Anna Deavere Smith, they dropped out of the sky like aliens. And that's like, man, and the white system wants people to think is that it's not valid until we've discovered it, like America. It wasn't here until we came over here. Then it automatically appeared out of nowhere when we came. No, we were fine. You showed up. You observed some shit, stole some shit. We had some fights. But this is still our shit. It's always going to be our shit. Okay? And so if you want to get into his plays, you can see some of his plays on video. I know he'll tell you about that, but maybe you'll get a link for that. And you get our link so people can see some of what's available on YouTube.
Right.
My Shakespeare in Harlem Part 1 is available. I have several films. But if you want to get in touch with me now about what I'm doing now, so for example, you want to get in touch with me about acting and hiring me to be in a film, well, then you just go to Summerhill7, the number 7.com. Summerhill, the number 7.com. You can see real. You can see my agent. You can get in contact with me, and, for audition or to be in your film. Now, if you're interested in learning more and following up on the conversations we've had tonight, you want to go to poemity.com. That's where I've been teaching since I was 13. I used to in churches, and when I became a Muslim, I started teaching the Quran in prisons, and I went to college. I studied privately, and I focused really on acting, creative writing, public speaking as lessons. I'll give you master private coaching, and then of course I do workshops, the whole thing. But that's all through poemity.com. And then finally, the book I referenced earlier tonight, which is thus far the only book I've written about my experiences making the transition from being an attorney, is Squircular. Squircular.com. That's spelled SQUIRCULAR.com. You can always Google Summer11. You'll learn about all that and a whole bunch of other stuff. Baba and I are working on a film together that's in post-production called New Yorkers Out of Water. And upcoming is Top Dog Underdog Conversation, directed by Lowell Williams, featuring Abdul Khalik Tada and Travis Xavier Brown. Brilliant young actors, brilliant African men doing this brilliant work, directed brilliantly by Lowell under pandemic circumstances, which is where we are now. So that's the whole story. Thank Joseph. Thank you for being you. Thank you for what you do. I look forward to more interactions.
Yes.
We're here, so there's a lot for us to do in 2021 and beyond.
Right. Yeah. Let's do as much as possible. Definitely. Mr. Lowell, how can people get in contact with you, and what things do you have going
Okay, well, my email is LEWNINE numeral 10 at gmail.com. I'm not going to read because Summer just gave information about one of my upcoming projects that I'm directing a Zoom reading of Dog Underdog for everybody watching. That's going to be on January 14th at 8 p.m. on Zoom.
Okay, that's my birthday.
Also, as I'm directing for the M Ensemble, that's probably going to be sometime in late March. If you want to find out about that, I would suggest go to get their phone number there. I don't have it right now, and call them up to find out whether the production is going on in the specifics. That's the mensemble.com. The M Ensemble is all one word written together. Other than that, I'm a writer right now, so I've written 3 plays, working on a 4th. I'm sending them out now to see whether I get, as they say, whether spaghetti is done, we throw one up against the wall. If it sticks, it's done. Well, I'm throwing my plays out there and see which ones stick. If trying to get somebody to produce them.
Right.
Finding out how important it is to get as Cuba Gooding Jr. said, show me the money. I ain't doing this for free. Although I do want my work out there, I want to share my work. Really. Also, I work for unions, and I'm big about getting paid for our Black art.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Ma Rainey's Black tells the whole story, how our music got taken away.
Yep.
All them wonderful musicians and never got paid.
Yep.
And walking around in baseball, as you say, Baba, in fences. He talks about the daughter walking around in run over shoes. So our stories need to be told, but I'm also, if you get into it, get paid. Know the business side of it too. That's an important part of the arts. It is also show business.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Show business.
Yeah, what's the bigger word? Show or business?
Business.
That's proportional to how much energy you got to put into each aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, business is a larger word. Yeah.
Exactly. So with that being said, if you enjoy what you see here and you want to know more information just on the history of Black theater or just Black history in general, you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/OTSOG. Make sure you check out my website. I have literally probably over 230 and counting figures from the African diaspora that I have displayed on my website. We mentioned 2 or 3 here. Chevalier, Joseph Chevalier, I have him. Dumas, I have him. Who else we mentioned? Pushkin. I profiled them. All this information is on here. Check it out. Make sure y'all check out my 3 volumes of my books, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 1, North America, Volume 2, Central America, and Volume 3, South America, giving you more sung and unsung heroes that you may or may not have learned about. So just trying to do our best to make sure that we tell our own stories and we're not waiting on nobody else to do it. And we're going to educate our own kids. I always hear people complaining, our schools don't teach us history. Our schools don't teach us history. Yeah, and nobody's stopping you from teaching it either. So, and before we go, gentlemen, Miss Renee. Renee, there you go. Miss Renee Matthews Jackson told me she was in the comments, wanted to make sure that you all know she was here, and she says, hey, and thank you. And everybody in the comments say thank you for the information that you gave to us. So thank you, Miss Cynthia. Thank you, everybody who tuned in.
Love Renee Matthews Jackson. Get her on here. I hope you.
Yes, I already connected.
One of the Oh, good. Okay.
Yes,
Good. I
yes,
want to come to that interview.
Guys, it
yes,
was good seeing all of you.
yes, yes, yes. It
I've
was
got to
good seeing
run
everybody.
here.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace out.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.
I love
Okay.
you. Happy New
Baba,
Year.
try to
I love
come
y'all.
see.
Yes. Peace.
Okay, Baba, try to come see Emergency.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, link me up so I know when and where.